Hi, welcome back to Smarmalade Plays Autumn's Journey. The guild of dudes who knight things is corrupt! Dragon bones! One of the other knights sighed and tried speaking to me more gently.
Don't you think you're being too impulsive here? You're obviously young, with a lot of pressure to your name. Don't do something rash and target Archer Valier's reputation with your disloyalty. It's our duty as knights to carry out our mission with the guild and clients' best interests in mind.
No, what I'm doing is more important. This is for both Dragonkind and Heavenkind's sake. I'm not surrendering those remains. Sensing that my resolve would not yield, the knights brandished their weapons at me.
Then I'll just report to the guild that you got caught in an unfortunate accident.
Smirking, Dervishi slammed his weapon into the ground 2 more times. Each shock washed over me, rendering me motionless. There was an ear-splitting crack as the tree began to topple. Aura! Ilmari's desperate voice suddenly shifted into a growl, and a large turquoise body sailed over me. A section of Ilmari's long neck slammed into the thick trunk as he halted its fall. His tail thrashed as he roared, straining against the weight. Ilmari was a water dragon. He couldn't move on land effectively, and he had essentially pinned himself to protect me. Ilmari! His large face turned to me. His expression was unreadable in dragon form, but even I could sense his concern. I'm fine, and you were right about what the box contained. The knights seemed to waver, baffled by the dragon's presence.
Slay that dragon! Consider this out of self-defense, and you will be paid tenfold for its corpse. Don't be scared. Look how helpless it is.
Ilmari snarled, but his only real weapon was his teeth and tail, and he was immobile. He couldn't transform back either, else he risked being flattened by the tree. Where was Care? I altered my stance, inviting the knights to take me on. With numbers on their side, they advanced toward me until one of the more impatient ones broke from her position. I dashed forward, swinging my sword as it met the first knight. She parried and thrust her sword forward. I sidestepped, but had to duck as an axe soared over me. Wait, knights are supposed to fight one-on-one! Ah! I spun around and kicked the axeman in the back of the knee. I knew I was dealing with warriors more experienced than me. Maybe I could hold my own in an individual fight, but my minor victory was short-lived when I felt a hot pain sear my left arm. I hissed in pain, realizing that I had received a shallow cut from a blade. Blood trickled down my elbow. That moment of hesitation left me open, and I barely blocked another attack. The axeman and swordwoman were overwhelming me, and I frantically tried to keep them at bay. With each swing, their weapons grew dangerously closer, and each blow reverberated up my sword arm. There was a second crimson spray as a steel blade bit into my torso, and I cried out. Ilmari's roar was deafening, and suddenly the axeman was hit with a full blast of water, causing him to topple over. Orally, stay near me! His guttural voice startled me. Orally, stay near me! Since I had no idea he could talk in his dragon form. Looking back, I saw Ilmari was urgently stretching out his neck in an attempt to shield me, his fangs fully bared. I retreated closer to him as my 3 opponents surrounded me. One sprinted toward Ilmari, who was focused on another knight, aiming his sword at the dragon's neck. No! I blocked his attack, trying not to buckle under the strain. Forcing my whole weight forward, I managed to push him back. I heard swift footsteps a second later, and the knight I was fighting suddenly flew back from a hasty punch. Care! He flashed me a confident grin. Sorry, I was preoccupied with a few others. There will be no reinforcements after this. 2 down, 3 to glow. 3 to glow. 2 down, 3 to glow, including Dervishi. Care glanced back and spotted Ilmari, and his face flickered in pain. I gestured to the merchant and his mace. Care, stop him now! That weapon causes earthquakes! Care charged ahead, but was blocked by the swordswoman. The other knight, who possessed a flail, focused on me. Although the flail's range was short, its battering power was enough to make me wary. As I dodged an attack, I stepped back, and my foot found nothing but air. Nearly tumbling, I dived to the side to avoid falling into the chasm, leaving me vulnerable. Before I could roll away, The dirt beside me burst as the steel ball slammed down inches from my head. Discarding my sword, I grabbed the chain before the knight could raise his weapon and wrenched it out of his grip. He stumbled toward me as I rotated to my back. With a well-aimed kick to his stomach, he staggered back. I quickly retrieved my sword and scrambled up. Desperate, he bolted for his weapon, but a strong stream of water from Ilmari caused him to topple into the chasm. Kerr had already incapacitated his opponent, leaving only Dervishi, who had retreated enough to be out of Ilmari's attack range. We caught up to him. If you cast aside your weapon, no one will get hurt. Were you simply following orders? If I turn you in...
Me? Turned in? You were the one who stole a merchant's goods. There's no penalty for possessing dragon remains. The other knights will report what happened, and you'll be stripped of your rank and...
He recklessly slammed his mace into the ground, unsympathetic to the unconscious or wounded knights around him. Terrified, I dropped my sword as I knelt down, resisting the urge to cry out. Ilmari roared as the tremors caused the tree to abrade painfully against his scales. Kerr was unfazed and bounded forward. Before Dervishi could launch another assault, Kerr's fist met his cheek. The merchant went flying, and his body slammed and tumbled against the hard terrain. On his knees, Dervishi threw a fit and repeatedly pounded the ground with a mace. Every strike resounded and increased each tremor's intensity. "Stop it! If you keep that up!" Kerr had to leap away before the ground nearly swallowed him up. Deep fissures appeared and split, causing the ground to distort. Loose dirt rained down from the steeper slopes. It was as if the entire region was going to liquefy. Like a spiderweb, the ground around Dervishi suddenly groaned and heaved. I couldn't move. I could only watch helplessly. "Wait!" The merchant gawked and slipped back, but Kerr caught him just before he vanished into the gaping new ravine. The mace slipped from his grip, disappearing into darkness and giving one final tremor. Kerr forcibly threw Dervishi. See, his name is Dervishi. That last one said Dervishi, and it confused the hell out of me, because I was like, have I been reading it wrong this whole time? No. Kerr forcibly threw Dervishi onto solid ground. I slowly regained my balance, but I was determined to remain strong. Dervishi crumbled to the dirt in a supine position, and I instantly pointed my blade at his exposed neck. "It's over. You're nothing without that weapon, so just get lost." His forehead was beaded with sweat as he nodded fervently, all of his fight gone. "You're just gonna let him go? He used dragon remains for a weapon. Disgusting." "I'm not gonna kill him, and Argent Valir is aware of what's going on. They would probably protect him." Then who could I turn to? Dervishi wriggled out from under my sword and tried to make a hasty withdrawal. Kerr simply punched his lights out. "Little extreme there. He not only tried to kill us, but he put his own men in danger. I should just ask Ilmari to eat him." I don't think he'd agree to that. A distressed roar caught our attention. "Ah, speaking of him, Ilmari!" Forgetting about the merchant, we hurried back to where Ilmari was. Kerr surveyed the situation and ran under the trunk, positioning himself close to Ilmari's neck. "You really don't do well on land!" Ilmari hissed, unamused by Kerr's comment. With a heavy hoist, Kerr pushed the trunk up the trunk with exceptional strength. Mist formed around them. As the tree crashed back to the ground, I scrambled to Ilmari's side. He was kneeling down and moaning. "Ilmari, are you okay? That was so reckless." "I'll be fine. Oh, my neck! It's gonna be sore for a week." He was on the verge of tears. "But what about you? Those injuries, and I couldn't stop them. Sobbing, he clung to me, burying his head into my shoulder.
Sorry.
"I'm so sorry. I was useless. That was the best I could do." I patted his back reassuringly. "You were anything but useless, Ilmari. I wouldn't have survived if you hadn't come to my rescue. I felt like I didn't do much myself. If anything, the person who helped us most was..." We both turned to Kerr expectantly, and he flinched from our tender expressions. He coughed and gave us a haughty glare, placing his hands on his hips. "That's right! I did most of the work. Sheesh! Both of you are pitiful!"
Whoa!
"Wait, what are you doing?" Group hug! We both embraced Care, refusing to let him escape. Parasites! I laughed and stepped back, while Care had to apply more force to free himself from Omari. Remembering the box, I returned to its hiding spot and pulled it out from under the shrub. I was surprised it managed to make it through unscathed.